Deuce from the Deuce and Mo podcast, the most dynamic duo in sports media. What is up? How are you?
Oh, man, it's been a long time, man. Good to see you.
I think the last time we talked, you got me on a Sacramento radio hit. I know that was a prior situation, but I always appreciate you and Mo, bringing me on, giving me that time with the Sacramento fans. I look back at things like that. The small things are really important.
Oh, I love talking basketball with people who love the game, and you have like a huge passion. You pay attention. You watch it. You're not just like hot takes. Hot takes can be fun too, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's I like your approach. It's cool.
So I've been thinking, I feel like you shouldn't dumb down the analysis, but sometimes you could dumb down the topics, and that kind of helps with engagement a little bit.
Oh, for sure. It definitely helps. But yeah, there's like so much, and that's the toughest part about the content game is like, all right, how do you stand out? And that's probably the one area I suck at. I have such a hard time doing like hot take stuff. I like joking around. The game's not that serious to me. It's fun. I try to boil it down like this. This is a child's game we get to watch every day. And we see these superhuman athletes do incredible things. And I try not to take it for granted because we see it happen so often, but we have to check ourselves because they do things on a court that no one else can. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, I saw you when you found out about the DeMar news. What'd you have? Like, what was that? Like, I don't know what it was, but you were on the show. Yeah, you're on the show. You're going crazy. So was that like? And I want to get to your conversation with DeMar because I thought that was great. The vibes were immaculate. Like he seemed really happy. You guys seemed really happy. But was that something within the trade zeitgeist that you've been hearing about DeMar to the Kings, or it's something that came out of nowhere?
It started like pop off as a rumor. I saw Mark Spears was on NBA Today, and they were doing some like spin the wheel segment. And then Malika's like, "So Mark, give us a prediction." He goes, "I'm going to tell you, the Kings are a dark horse for DeMar DeRozan." I was like, is Mark just playing around? Like, is this just him having fun? And then it seemed like more and more information started to come out. I was like, this seems pretty real. But it didn't feel totally real until it was done. Because the reality is, like, the Kings in previous years, one, have not been able to land any marquee free agents. Sacramento is just not like a free agent destination. And two, they've been kind of played before, used as leverage, whether it's in trades or even one of their big free agent chases years ago was trying to get Andre Iguodala before he went to the Warriors and then before he re-signed with the Warriors again. And it seemed like each time it was like, oh, it was just like he was just trying to drive up the price. You know what I mean? So for Sacramento to get someone of DeMar's caliber is pretty impactful for them.
Yeah, I watched the conversation with you, DeMar and Mo, and just the vibe seemed good. Like he seemed happy, and it's good to talk to somebody that's like engaged. That it felt like he really wanted to be a part of that conversation. And you got to love that. Like, let's say if Kawhi was the free agent coming in, that conversation would have looked a little bit different.
Yeah, it's funny too because DeMar, what they did is they allowed like media members to have one-on-ones after everyone got like 4 minutes.
Right.
And I'm usually pretty reluctant to do those things because what are you going to get out of 4 minutes? Like honestly, it's just it's not enough time to dive into anything. So we came in with a game plan and we're like, well, he seems pretty engaging, so he'll buy in. But I was telling Morgan, I said that was the best 4-minute conversation I've ever had with a player. If it was Kawhi Leonard, I'd want that challenge though. I do that's the one thing we pride ourselves on, being able to connect with these basketball players and have different conversations, not asking the same questions over and over again. But DeMar is just, everything I hear about him as a person is like, everyone loves the guy. And it's not just like former players and coaches, execs. We're talking about the broadcasters, like media relations, anyone who's interacted with him. He's a professional.
Oh, what was your biggest takeaways from your conversation with him?
I just loved, you mentioned his like engagement, but when I asked him like what does he love about basketball in its purest form, and he just said, the imagination. And I was like, dude, that's just like a great answer. And he brought up the intro scene to Space Jam. I'm like, he has a love for the game, and I connect with people who are super passionate about what they do. There's a lot of people, and it's not just in basketball, but like, there's people in basketball who don't love basketball. I'm not just talking about players. I'm talking about like
Oh no, there's players.
No, there's definitely players. I'm saying like even broadcasters. Like
Oh,
some
that
people just
yeah.
are like, you get jaded from being in the game for a long time or
Yeah.
whatever. And you could tell with DeMar, it's not like that. Like his life is about the connection he has with that sport, what it's done for his life, and the relationships he's built. It's cool.
You had a little bit of a prescient moment where you kind of like you got back to your wrestling instincts and you said you hope that he comes out with Sabonis and Fox. You kind of got something like that though, right?
Oh, dude, it was insane. So the Kings have their California Classic every year, little mini summer league before Vegas, and the Woj is it. We knew DeMar was in town, and you're like, all right, if he's at the game or if he's in Sacramento and he signs a deal, he's got to come out, right? And sure enough, man, right before tip off of the Kings summer league game against Team China, he comes out. They got Not Like Us playing in the background, and the crowd just went crazy. It was just a
What,
cool moment. It was a really
what,
cool moment.
what,
Like,
what, God.
where are you when like there's a Woj bomb, right? That comes to your phone, and you're at the game. And I was at the game. I was on the broadcast with Mark Jones, and literally I saw it go off on my phone, the alert, and then people in the background were cheering. I'm like, oh, they got it to their phones, you know? And then 15 minutes later, the player shows up to where you're at. It was just a weird moment that doesn't really happen.
Did you want to ask him about the Drake thing? Because it's interesting who he sided with, right? After playing with
Yeah.
the Raptors for that
You
long. But
know,
I mean, he is a California guy, so
he is, yeah. You
yeah.
know, I know my buddy Sean Cunningham asked him about it, and his answer was that he goes way he hasn't been public about it, but he like grew up with Kendrick. Like they go
Mm.
way back, grew up in the same neighborhood. So I was like, I don't know if I want in my head, I was like, everyone's gonna ask him that. Everyone's gonna ask him the Kendrick thing. Like I get
Okay,
it.
okay, okay.
And so I'm like, I just want to talk basketball with the guy, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. So speaking of basketball, what does DeMar bring to this team from your perspective?
Well, I think last year it was
And does he move? Does he bring enough to move the needle to help this team win a championship? Like, are they super legit title contenders at this point?
oh, I know I don't think they're title contenders.
Okay, okay.
Uh, but they're better now.
Yeah,
They're
yeah, yeah.
gonna be a better team. I mean, you go back to 2 years ago when maybe they caught people by surprise. People, other teams in the West were banged up. They won 48 games, the number 3 seed. They had the number one offensive rating in the league, and at the time, NBA history. It seems like that gets broken every year. Um, the next year, it's a little clunky at times. You know,
Hmm.
their offense wasn't near the top. Everyone else kind of got better. People were healthy. They aren't catching
Right.
people off guard, and there were times like especially late in the year when Malik went out, you're looking around going, who else is going to create on this team? You know,
Yeah.
just be De'Aaron, and that's what it turned into. And so you're looking around going, who else is going to go out and get a bucket? Who else is going to be able to go attack and get to the free throw line? Who's going to set someone up? You know, and they lacked in that area. I didn't think they were going to be able to re-sign Malik Monk. They got that done. That was significant before
Yeah.
free agency. And to get DeMar DeRozan, a guy who's just a professional bucket getter, who I think can play a variety of roles. Like he's a good basketball player. One, you already know his scoring ability. And for a league that is 3-point heavy, the guy still scores 24, 25 a game, and he doesn't really shoot threes. Like the guy is a mid-range guy. He gets to the rim. He'll pump fake your ass to death. You know, like great
Hmm.
footwork. And I think the underrated aspect of his game is his playmaking. So you see the attention he commands too. Like if you go watch him last year, the best defender was defending DeMar DeRozan. Well, now he's in a situation, if the Kings are healthy, they've got a lot of offensive weapons. Sabonis is attracting a lot of attention. De'Aaron Fox attracts a lot of attention. You throw DeRozan out there, you still have Keegan Murray who can knock down shots and stretch the full floor. Malik coming off the bench. I think it's going to be a great fit. You know, there's still going to be questions about the Kings defensively, and I think that's going to be a question until they upgrade that 4 spot. That's kind of a question mark, but it was a question mark before DeMar DeRozan. Harrison Barnes, in my opinion,
Mm.
been the starter at that point. They needed to upgrade that spot. Now, at this point, it looks like maybe it's going to be Keegan. Is that going to be okay? That's going to be tough too, even though he's a much better defender than Harrison. But their defense, with all like the issues they had, they made a jump to 14. If you look at after the All-Star break and once Keon Ellis played a role, they were like top 5 defensive rating.
Right.
So to me, it's like, all right, can they lean into being a really dynamic offensive team, showing a little more versatility and diversity with what they run, and be solid defensively? They should be a lot better this year.
You mentioned fit. What would you say to the skeptics? Demonis, Fox, DeRozan, all really good basketball players, but none of them are really like elite spacers.
Yeah,
So
well,
yeah,
I mean, one, my pushback on that would be De'Aaron Fox took a huge leap last year as a 3-point shooter, and he did it on high volume. I mean, he took and made the most threes in his NBA career. And I think some people are like, "Oh man, De'Aaron, don't settle for threes. You're taking too many." I think that's going to be a big part of his game, and I think if anything, now you're going to see him expand on that. And I think for Sabonis, my challenge has just been, I've said this for 2 years now, the guy's got to take more shots. He was efficient on the 3-pointers he took last year. He doesn't take enough. And I think there's a little too much hesitation from him, even from the mid-range, the longer mid-range shots. Like, take those, dude. If they're leaving you open, take them. And I say that because I think he can hit them. For him, I believe it's more of a confidence issue than anything. Last year, the Kings offense not only took a step back because of maybe, not having the playmaking we talked about at times. Kevin Huerter had the worst shooting stretch of his career, worst shooting season of his career, right? Keegan Murray shot like 41% his rookie year. That dropped to like 36%. The shooting wasn't as good for Sacramento. So to go back to your other question in terms of spacing, I think Fox has that ability now. He can knock down shots. If he can knock it down at 37%, you'll take it. I think Keegan's going to shoot better this year. If Herter's still here, I think he should have a bounce back year. And the other reality is, DeMar DeRozan, okay, are you going to sag off DeMar DeRozan?
right,
Please, sag off DeMar DeRozan. He's going to go ahead, get to a spot and get to the mid-range. So you have to defend DeMar DeRozan. I think the Kings are going to have enough shooting around those guys, and it'll be okay.
Have you ever heard any insights from Sabonis on why he doesn't shoot more threes?
No, I don't, because I feel like that's a part that he always talks about doing it more, and he did it more last year. He took more mid-range shots last year. It's just an element of his game that I think if he is one, it would change the Kings drastically, right? If he could space the floor, because you get in a situation, you struggle to find the right person to put next to him at times. He's such a strong dude. He commands so much attention. He's still able to put up monster numbers, led the league in triple doubles, double doubles. But I think for him, he cannot hesitate from three. And whatever it is, he thinks about it. And when you're thinking about it, it's too late. Just go. If you're open, shoot it. And I think there are also times with him, he's looking so much to get others involved. He's like, let me get in the dribble handoff. Oh, someone's got to be open. It's like, no, man, you are open. Take that shot.
Yeah, I mean, you watch Tyrese play, even he goes through that at a totally different position sometimes. It's like you have a layup, just lay it up. But some guys just love the idea of making everybody around him, making everybody around them better,
And I think the Kings have, even with someone like Keegan Murray, who's, entering year 3, he has those times where he's too passive. I'm like, Keegan Murray, put the ball on the floor and go get it. Get to your mid-range shot, which he showed a little more of last year. And, he did a much better job attacking the rim. But I just need some of these guys to play with a little more aggressiveness, looking for their own.
Is this basically the team that we're going to see? You think there's more moves to be made? And on top of that, what are your expectations for this team? What would it be for Deuce to say this was a good season next year?
Well, to answer your first question, I think there is probably another move that should be made. I think they do need some more size. They really do. I mean, they re-signed Alex Len, who was like a solid backup, but you're looking around going, all right, what else is there? I mean, they lose Sasha, who they didn't play a lot, but he had size, right? Harrison Barnes, he has size. You didn't really replace that. You still have Trey Lyles too, but getting someone that has some size that could rebound a bit, do like kind of the dirty work. I don't necessarily, so many people talk about, oh, go get Kyle Kuzma. I don't really see that fit now.
I mean, he had an opportunity to go to the Mavs, and he wanted to stay with the Wizards. So who knows what he wants to do?
I have zero. You're exactly right. I have no idea what the guy wants, because there was a stretch before the Kings got DeRozan. I'm like, look, man, I could see him. I know De'Aaron likes him. They have a relationship, and you could see him get up and down the floor. His playmaking, the 3-point shooting is not great from him, but put him in a winning situation. He's got some good size, but I don't know what he wants. But I'm trying to think of someone at the 4 that is not gonna. You don't need that person to be trying to score 20 a night. You need that person that helps Sabonis on the glass. You need that person to be good defensively, be long enough to contest at the rim, and maybe knock down a shot. Jalen McDaniels, who they picked up from Toronto, who had an awful year last year. I don't think he is that, So I think they have to explore that a little more. One name that I'm intrigued by, he was out there around the draft. His name was out there, but I don't buy that he's really available. It's Bobby Portis. He's been the whole Milwaukee for a long time.
He would bring some toughness, right?
And that's what I'm like, that type of toughness, right? Where Bobby Portis, he can give you 20 plus on a night, but he doesn't have to have an impact on the game. Like, he's going to have that. He's not going to take any shit. He's a dog. He's going to rebound. Good size. So I think they still need to upgrade that. I think as constructed, though, I think they could win 50 plus games. I mean, if they didn't make the playoffs with this team, I'd be extremely disappointed. I was disappointed last year that they didn't make it. I think they had many opportunities. You win 46 games and miss the playoffs. That's disappointing. And they had so many games they threw away last year, like losing at home to the Pistons. This is before the deadline. This is when they made all these trades. I think it was Killian Hayes' last game. He got cut after the game. The Kings lost at home to that team, to the Pistons. You lose to the shorthanded Blazers at one point. DeMar DeRozan came to town with the Bulls and outscored the Kings in the fourth quarter of a game and beat them. They had big leads a couple of times in Milwaukee and Phoenix. They lost on the road to Washington. Right. They lost at home to Charlotte. We're talking about really bad losses that if you win a couple of those games, you're not in the play-in. If you just take care of business, you're not in that situation. And I think there's got to be a different level of focus this year, especially with how daunting the West can be. But I think outside the top 3 in the West, to me, it's pretty open. Maybe outside the top 4, maybe, but it's what? OKC, Minnesota. I love Dallas's offseason.
Oh, yeah.
I think they'll miss Derrick Jones Jr., but man, to replace him, you get Najee Marshall. I love that guy. Klay Thompson in that offense too, with the gravity he has playing with Kyrie and Luka, they're going to be good. Denver to me is going to drop off, but they'll still be good because they've got Jokic. So I don't know. Outside those, it's to me, it's up for grabs a little bit, and you get in. It's all about matchups.
A sleeper playoff team is, I believe, and I actually talked about. I was prophetic with the Rockets last year, so it's this year's version of the Rockets.
Okay,
you know what? The Spurs, man, and your guy is a Spur. And I know you've been busy with California Classic, but have you been seeing the Wemby highlights? Have you been seeing?
Oh, yeah. I've seen the Wemby highlights, but I've actually called the Spurs California Classic games, actually every one of them.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you can share even more insights. Is this a sleeper team? They got CP3. I dislike the fit with him with Golden State, but I love the fit with him with the Spurs for all the obvious reasons, even though he's even a year older. But what do you think about this team? I think they got a chance, man. I think they got a chance.
It's interesting. I don't know what that means. A chance at the playoffs? I don't see that. But do you remember when Chris Paul got traded to OKC and everyone's like, oh God, he's done. They're not going to do shit. What?
Yeah.
He helped get that team to the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Chris Paul still has something left to give. I think
especially when a guy's older, but the fit is so perfect. I mean, I think that matters, The
Spurs didn't have a point guard for stretches. They went Sohan, and then they went, oh, what are we going to do? Trey Jones. They didn't have it. And now you got Chris Paul in the mix and what he brings on the court, but off the court too. And then even Harrison Barnes, he may not be the player he was.
Yeah, you got to watch him closely. How much could he give at this point, you think?
I think he still has something to give. I think part of it too is he was asked to play the 4 spot And like, I think that's just a struggle for him. I think it's tough depending on the matchup. And there's some threes that are tough. But the one thing with Harrison, the guy plays every single night and he's been efficient from three. I think the last 4 or 5 years, it's like 38, 39% from three. So you
Right,
add some
right.
shooting, right? And it's just two guys that know the game. Two guys that are great guys. It's perfect for a young team. I think they're gonna be a lot better. And I've been watching Stephon Castle.
Oh, he's tough.
I'm telling you, man, and I don't pretend to be like a college basketball expert because I'm just watch NBA a lot. But I saw him during the draft. I read some of the pundits and all the mock drafts. Look, this guy is a good playmaker with the ball in his hands. His finishing ability at the rim through contact has been on display in the last couple of games I called. And then the biggest question is going to be the three-point shot.
But the flashes off the dribble been looking nice, right?
Oh, it's super not. I mean, they're
Yeah,
all aspects. I'm like, okay, can he improve the three-point shot? He
yeah.
didn't shoot it well at UConn, but he didn't take a lot either. Last night in the game I called, he took 6 threes. He was 0 for 6. I was like, I don't care. I just need him to take these because the first game I called, he passed up an open three. And it was like, what are you doing? And then later in the game, he got a little more comfortable. He felt like, oh, okay, he's feeling himself a little bit. Took a logo three and buried it. So I actually think for him, and it's going to take him a minute, obviously. The guy's 19 years old, but he gets to play with Chris Paul,
Yeah, and he can learn. He can learn. Yeah.
And, watching the Spurs last year, yeah, they won 20 something games, but I don't ever felt like I didn't think they were an easy out all the time. I felt like they played hard. They tried to play the right way. They didn't have enough shooting. They didn't have enough vets. So I do think they're going to be much improved. I don't know if I can call them a playoff team. Man, I just got to see. I don't
I
know
mean,
the playoffs, but it's going to. Could they win like 35 games? Yeah. Could they maybe
I
be
mean,
interesting? Yeah.
who
40 games.
know who knows how good Wemby will be this season?
Oh my God.
There's
I
no
mean, yeah,
ceilings.
like
Yeah.
who was throwing Wemby lobs last year? Like they had that the Spurs had talked about they had trouble finding guys who could throw him a lob. Well, breaking news: Chris Paul has thrown a lot of lobs in his career. The Tyson Chandler, DeAndre Jordan, he's made guys a lot of money. Wemby, and then just what he has worked on. I mean, it's going to be disgusting.
Yeah. Speaking of the Spurs, former Spur Derrick White added to Team USA, and I loved it. I was actually talking about months back that he would be the perfect fit for this team. But I would say that somebody asked me, how you feel? Like I had a friend ask me, how do you feel? You think this is the greatest Olympic team ever? And I was thinking, I was like, it's a tough time to ask me that because they almost lost to a Cooper Flagg led team in an exhibition. So I don't think this is the right time for you to ask me that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, obviously from a pure name perspective, like, oh my God, it pops out at you. There's a lot of old guys on this team though, too. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I also think, when you put these teams together, everyone compares it to 92 in the Dream Team. It was just such a different time. The United States was so far ahead of everybody else. And now the rest of the world, dude, there's talent. I mean, look at the draft, all the French players that just have been coming out in the last couple of years. And you look at, I was watching some of the Australian national team. They were playing China, and I was calling one of the Team China games. It's a California Classic, so I got to watch this. And they got NBA guys everywhere. And these guys play the right way. They move the ball. They got shooting.
Yeah.
It's a different style. Well, now you're asking all these star players who are used to being the guy to come in and play like different roles. It's not always easy. So I think having someone like Derrick White, who in my opinion can play any role, like he's like the perfect type of guy you would want on an Olympic team. And maybe that's like the shift. Like I don't necessarily think you need to have all of your star guys play on the Olympic team. I think having
100%. You need role guys. You need winning players. I've been saying this.
That are going to buy into it and understand FIBA rules, embrace the physicality that comes with that, because it's not going to be easy, man. Like the Canadian team, I mean, you got Australia. There's a lot of talent.
Yeah. You have an interesting perspective because you get to cover the G League. You cover Summer League. And I wanted to stay on Cooper Flagg because I mentioned him early. How impressive, I know it's only one game, but how impressive was that game for you? I feel like if you took any of the draftees from this year's draft, and it's not a knock, I don't know if they would have this type of impact on that game. What did you learn about Cooper's game, just seeing some of that, and how good could this guy be?
I mean, he's 17 years old, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
17 years old.
Yeah.
And the guy, one, just from a body standpoint, like
Right.
just looks NBA ready today.
Right.
He plays with confidence. He's not scared to go up against some of these legends. The moment wasn't too big for him. And then
Right.
he's ready. Like, I don't know what to say. Like, the guy could play in the NBA right now. I'm
So
sure.
would you, if you were a GM, would you take him number 1 in this year's draft, knowing what you know now in this past draft at 17?
I mean, I think it would be a no-brainer based on how people evaluated this draft. It wouldn't even be close. He would be the guy. Like, I haven't looked at like ahead of next year's draft. We've heard Cooper's name for a few years now.
Right.
But to see him in this moment and to show up the way he did, and I mean, there's no denying, like, it pops. And it would be shocking if he wasn't the number 1 pick. And yeah, we always talk about like college basketball from the men's side, and it's like not as intriguing as it used to be. The women's product has been so much more intriguing, typically because those women are staying in college for longer too, and you can kind of build like a connection with them. But dude, Duke is going to be must watch. It's like when Zion was there. It's like, you got to watch those games. People are going to be watching Cooper Flagg. I can't wait.
All right, 0.5 losses over under Team USA. What are you thinking? 0.5 losses.
Oh man, I don't even know what the schedule breakdown is, to be honest. What is it? I think I know what group. I am so like out of the loop. I'm like I'm like, I've been in draft, free agency, summer league. Are they who are they? They got Serbia's in their group, Puerto Rico. Who's the other team? I don't even know.
Yeah.
How many games do they play? I'm interested to see what it looks like. I don't even know, man.
You got to answer. Come on, what are you thinking? They go undefeated. They maybe lose 1 game. Like,
I think they lose a game. I'm gonna say they lose a game. Yeah, they're gonna lose a game.
Yeah.
The rest of the world is just legit, man. And I don't care how talented they are. It's not always about the talent.
100%. And that kind of goes back to my Derrick White point, when they're like, a lot of people are saying there's a lot better players out there. That's not the point.
Oh, well, first of all, what are they saying? Derrick White has turned into a damn good player. Who just won the championship, who has evolved his game, can defend multiple positions, plays tough. Like, no, he is perfect for that. I think the American basketball fan, and I'm not gonna say all of them, I'm not trying to generalize here, but they have this like dream team thing where you have to have the best of the best. Why don't we put our best out there? You need a team now, okay? You're not just going to come out with an all-star team and just coast through everything anymore. It doesn't work like this. These other programs are working their asses off. These players play with each other a lot. They understand it. They don't just like come together for a training camp 3 weeks before the Olympics and go, all right, let's go. Like, they don't do that. So you have to build a team, and that's what I'm curious to see what it looks like. Like, are these guys... Is Team USA ready, man? Are they Steph, I think, could be lethal, just because, like, you see, I mean, with the 3-point line the way it is in the Olympics, and
yeah, he could he could break a game wide open. And I don't think, I mean, obviously there's so many NBA players, but at the international level, I don't think it's part of their muscle memory to start guarding guys like right at half court,
Right.
For a lot of those, it's like he might just pull from like 40.
He's going to be super important, I am very fascinated to see it, and I also like, I feel like I don't, this sounds so bad as an American right now. I'm like, I want some good games. I don't care if the US wins or not, dude.
Of course.
You know why? Because watching Puerto Rico the other day when they beat Lithuania and seeing the emotion, right? Seeing Alvarado jump on the scores table, and I'm like, if that would just not happen to the U.S. anymore. Like, we've been so spoiled by having the elite, where like, if we don't get gold, we are like, what is happening? We don't accept anything less than that.
Yeah, no, I mean, if there's close games, it's going to be really fun, because I mean, if we see Durant and LeBron and Curry in like really competitive games, like, it's going to be a lot of fun against guys that a lot of America probably didn't even heard of, to some degree. Obviously, like, the league's best players are playing with different teams, but it's going to be like really interesting.
How about the Canadian national team's got some guys too?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The exhibition could be fun that they're playing in Vegas. Actually, that's today as we're recording this later.
Yeah, exactly. All right, last thing before we get out of here. It was interesting, actually, before I get into that. Kevin Durant said, like, I was listening to a pod, and he was saying, like, they were asking the big three, and he's like, I guess it's LeBron, Steph, and me, but I don't know if that's the case anymore, right? We got like Luka, SGA, Jokic. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if they're still the big three in terms of name and legacy, obviously, but
Yeah.
not currently, right?
No, I mean, I don't think. I mean, look, in front names, yes, but God, I mean,
Right.
there's just so much young talent coming up too, and then like
Yeah.
what Jokic has done the last few years, like I
Right.
don't know
Yeah.
how he wouldn't be up there.
Yeah. Last 6 MVPs have been international players. Crazy. All right, Deuce, last thing. How has covering the G League and Summer League helped you with your coverage of the NBA?
I think just being around it, like getting to games early, I'm big on getting the
Mm,
game early. And you just get to watch how guys operate, how they work, and building relationships with like coaches and players. They see you around, they see the work you're putting into, and I think there's like almost a
yeah.
mutual respect a little bit. And I just look at it as an opportunity to learn more. I think that it's just like anything. The more you watch, the more you notice, the more you talk to people who like live the game, like the coaches and the execs and the players. And if anything, it's just made me respect the game even more. You see, even the talent in the G League, like these players are really good, and it
Oh
just shows
yeah.
you how tough it is to get to the league. There's guys that you go, they are buckets in the G League, or they can, and they get to the league. It's like, well, they're just a little too small. They're not fast enough.
How
They're
do
not
you,
strong enough.
how do they fit around the league's best players is the biggest question usually, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the other thing with summer league. So many people get focused on, oh man, this guy didn't score 25. He needs to be killing it in the summer league. Well,
Yeah.
Jared Dudley, who's coaching the Mavs summer league team, I thought the best quote yesterday. He was talking about how there's going to be guys in the summer league that can score 25 like every few games, and they're not going to play in the NBA next year. There are going to be guys though in this summer league that score 5 or 7 points who are on an NBA team next year, and it's
Right.
because they're doing things that like the role that they're maybe going to play in the NBA, or they're communicating on defense, they're making the right decisions, like just buying into the team component and playing the right way. So anyway, to answer your question, yeah, I think it's helped me a ton. It's just being around the game, and just learning and just embracing the fact that God, there's just so much to learn that I don't know still about this game, and just to soak up like every single moment of it.
It's been great to see your career evolution. You ever want to get back into wrestling?
Yeah, I still watch, I still pay attention, and if I don't watch, I'm at least like reading about it, like on Reddit.
Okay.
I was like so into AEW a couple of years ago, like I was like, dude, the switch is happening, like,
Uh,
but then WWE got rid of Vince, and then
we gotta learn. We gotta learn from history. We know from the Monday Night Wars, WWE always wins, right?
dude, WWE's storytelling now, it just goes to show you how much of a mess it was with Vince. Okay.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
now with Triple H running the show, there's just so many good angles, man. Like
There is. Yeah.
how they've kind of spun out this bloodline and kind of where it's headed. Like it's been must watch. And the fact that they got CM Punk back, which just seems so
Yeah.
they have just proven to be an absolute beast, and it's fun, and that's what's great. Like it's coming to Sacramento again in September. I'm gonna definitely go. It's fun to feel like a kid. I'm like, dude, I love this.
Yeah.
Are you still into it? You're watching it?
I see like the big things. I don't see much like I
Yeah,
used to. I used to be so into it as a kid. And then like you, I went through like phases, like,
yeah.
like watching it, not watching it, watching it, not watching it.
But to me, and that's what, dude, I learned from it too. Like I learned like it helps.
Yeah. And I talked about the G League helping you. I think like with you, it helps the theatrics of what you do. Like obviously you're a smart basketball mind, but it adds the fun stuff. Like you got that wrestling promo quality about you.
This is the entertainment business, and you can learn
100%.
from it all. And no, honestly, like I think we talked about this before, but for me, like when I'm a little kid and I'm watching The Rock work a microphone, right? Or
Yeah.
I'm watching Paul Heyman, I'm like,
Oh yeah.
these guys, when they grab a mic and that light goes on, there's a presence. You feel them. And so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like to have that, I like to have
Yeah.
and make it fun. You don't want to, every basketball podcast doesn't have to sound the same. We don't have to, it's
Yeah.
all like I said in the beginning. This is a fun game. We don't have to be like, well, let's get deep dive into it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, 100%.
Dive deep and be entertaining and laugh and fun, be serious and critical. We do a little bit of everything.
Deuce, great stuff. It's been too long. You're always welcome back on the show. Where can we find you? Social media, podcast, Twitter, TV, everywhere else?
Yeah, I'll be on NBC Sports California for Kings coverage coming up this season. But check out our YouTube channel. It's probably the best way, wherever you get podcasts. YouTube.com/@DeuceandMo. We're dropping content all the time.
You're always welcome back on the show, Deuce, and talk soon.
Appreciate it, man.